Hey everybody, and welcome back to Different from the Other Kids. We are at the live launch for the Law and Disorder edition. I am sitting here with one of our contributors, Bobby Koven. How the heck are ya?
Well, rock and roll, here I am.
Nice to see you.
Love being at headquarters of Deep Talk, or whatever you call the thing.
DFT, okay.
Yeah, world headquarters.
World headquarters, yes. It's live and it's crazy in here. Wanted to give everyone just a background of Bob before we go through a couple questions. He is in our second book, which is the Natural Alternatives edition. So let's we'll go through and we'll just give you a little bit of a synopsis of what got us to this point, and then we'll have a little chat with Bob. So in chapter 18 of the Natural Alternatives edition book, this is Krazy. Is it a nickname or a diagnosis? In this chapter of Different from the Other Kids, we meet Bobby, who has been dealing with Tourette syndrome and anxiety disorder his entire life. Bobby speaks about the lack of access to proper programs, medical diagnosis, and treatment within Ontario. He shares with us his journey that has led him on a path of acceptance, one that now allows him to share ways that have that have helped him overcome his day-to-day challenges. So that's the first chapter that Bob has. Chapter 19 is called The Dark Room. We continue to talk with Bobby, a man who has Tourette syndrome and anxiety disorder and OCD. Bobby takes us deeper into his everyday life as he discusses the activities he does that help him maintain order in his life. He offers up his own life stories and experiences. Last chapter is chapter 20, and it's called Adding to the Toolbox. In this chapter of Different from the Other Kids, we continue our discussion with Bobby, a man who has experienced challenges his entire life. Bobby and Angela discuss why it is so important to keep this conversation going and continuing to advocate for more support within our communities. Both Angela and Bobby discuss the importance of treating each person's challenges as individual. Just because something is right for one does not mean it will be right for everyone. So let me just finish my intro. Drum roll, please.
Why don't you finish your intro?
Here we go. This is otherwise known as, aka, Krazy Wildman, otherwise known as Krazy After All These Years, otherwise known as Entrepreneur Fly Fisherman, aka Mental Health Stand-Up Comic, aka Rapper, Baker, World-Class Skier, all true, Piano Player, Songwriter.
Well, not really a songwriter, improvisation.
Well, it is excellent.
As my father says, if the world operated in the key of C, I'd be a genius. But it's the ability of my crazy brain, my Tourette brain, to make up things and songs that sort of makes me the entertainer.
He is the consummate entertainer, no matter where you are. It's true.
And I do love that. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Wonderful. I'm so glad you're here, Bob. Okay, so let me get into our first questions. We'll dive right in here after. Bob and I have the unique ability to be light and heavy, and light and heavy. So that's the way this is going to go down, I think. Okay, so Bob, you were unwell for the better part of 7 years, you said. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself back then?
Well, I think I was unwell for more than the last 7 years, but what happened is this is a study of energy, and I managed to control my energy, make it positive through a number of crazy things, including I ran marathons, I was active in business, I was always flying, I was active, so I stayed ahead of the energy curve. Mm-hmm. And the last 7 years, unfortunately, that energy turned negative. Mm-hmm. And that was the whole problem of why I developed all my problems. Mm-hmm. So it was the last 7 years, and so the energy, I think, is the main issue. And when I talk about using my humor to talk about mental illness, I walk with a bunch of people and trying to talk about it, and they say, "Thank you so much for walking with me," and I say, "I'm not doing it for you, I'm doing it for me. This is therapy." Mm-hmm. So all of this that I do, the comedy, the improvisation, and just being totally crazy is my kind of therapy, a way of expending my energy. And luckily enough, I met you, and now I get to tell everybody mm-hmm. how my energy in the form of humor can help them as well.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So give us an idea of what's happening. You have your own website and your own place on the internet as Krazy After All These Years with a K.
Well, I have my own website, and I have a YouTube channel.
Yes, I saw
Crazy
that.
after all these years. Unfortunately, I'm competing with some unknown guy named Paul Simon,
Oh.
who's still crazy after all these years. But if you go to the second part of it on YouTube, you'll see all of my YouTube songs and performances. But it is encapsulated in a website called Crazy After All These Years, and that's been separated into motivational speaking, as well as comedy, as well as some other things. So Crazy, I've been doing a lot of stand-up lately, and my stand-up always starts with, hey, my nickname's Crazy Wildman is a nickname or a diagnosis, and I always talk about the crazy things going on in the world, and there's tons of them. Whether it's Trump, whether it's traffic on Sunday afternoon, whether it's religious holidays, whether all you have to do is open up the paper. I mean, the other day they had a study that medical marijuana was going to. They asked expert, was medical marijuana going to cause liquor sales to decline? Well, why didn't they ask me? I'm the expert. Of course it does. The more medical marijuana you smoke, the more you want to drink.
Oh, you want to drink it?
Yeah,
On top of the pot?
No, I'm just pointing. There's lots of crazy things every day.
Yes, absolutely.
Did you see that picture of the Pope when he was with
This
Donald
whole thing?
Trump?
Yeah, that was creepy.
So that's crazy, and
That's
that's what I talk about. But Crazy is my website, and I have some other things going on that's interesting. But maybe we'll talk about those a little bit later.
Yeah, we'll get into it. We got a lovely, rather large announcement, really, between the two of us. Bob and I have been working on some stuff here, but we'll get into that next. Okay, so we did Crazy. So I had one more. Well, is this the time for the announcement, do you think?
Well, I think we can talk about it.
I think we can talk about it too.
Because Angela and I have been working together with a videographer, a documentary friend of mine that was actually a high school colleague, and he is going to be producing a documentary on the odd couple, Angela Tsounis, different from the other kids, and Wild Crazy Bobby Koven, the entertainer. Both of us having the common denominator of trying to share our views on mental illness. So I think the documentary will be called, we're still working on the name, but it's probably There Is No Magic Bullet, and it should be out, and you'll be able to follow it on both of our websites, different from the other kids, and on Crazy After All These
I
Years.
think the taping is happening early 2018. Is that correct?
That's right.
We're in the throes We're in the throes. He's in the throes of making a pitch video that has just been completed, and he's bringing it to people out in the west part of Canada, looking for funding. So we'll see how all that goes. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great little journey.
Well, I think it's great. You know, I'm working on some venues that I can talk a little bit about my journey using humor as a way of demystifying mental illness. And I know that some of your previous participants in your book also are now in Alberta. So we'll be taking a trip.
Road trip.
Wild Wild West.
Road trip.
Angela and Bob B. and whoever else wants to join us.
Yeah, that'll be a good time if anybody wants to come. When is that going to be? Is that the beginning 2018? If we get all the funding in the
Well, you mentioned that I was a world-class skier, so
Yes,
I
I
hope it's
did.
during the winter and we,
Yes.
and we can go skiing.
You know I'm not joining you, right?
Well, you might. You never know.
I am so afraid I'm going to fall down and break something. I just, I'm happy to walk. I can sled. I don't need to get that active. I don't need to go down, careening down a hill, not knowing what I'm doing and falling over myself. It's not a good idea.
Well, if you want to know my comment, you weren't afraid of attacking mental illness and helping your daughter and helping everybody else through all the wonderful work that you do. So I think going down a ski hill is a minor distraction, and you'll be able to do it.
Seems more terrifying. Thank you, Bob. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Bob is going to come back for another interview in about 20 minutes, so please join us back.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thanks. Hi, everybody, and welcome back again to our live launch of Different from the Other Kids. Law and Disorder edition. I am joined again, thankfully, by Bobby Koven, who is here to have a conversation with me generally. We got caught up with him last time, and we had our announcement of a documentary in the works with Bob and I together having a conversation about mental health, and we are going to be labeled as the odd couple, which we certainly are. I wanted to introduce you to my friend Scrapper. He's 108 doggy years old, and he is in the acknowledgements of the book, so I wanted to say hello from the dog. Also want to give a shout out. I was just over at my plaza this morning and ran into Deb Flowers. And Deb Flowers and I were supposed to have a conversation. We were supposed to have a conversation just as a catch-up about her son, he's doing really, really well. But I wasn't able to get to her, unfortunately, but I wanted to say hello, and she was giving us a shout-out today when I saw her, so thanks very much, Deb. And I also wanted to say hello to Deb Kenny. I didn't get a chance to go and see her either. This is Atticus's mom from the second book, and she's at work today, and I wasn't able to get her, so I apologize to Deb. If you need to see Deborah, you want to talk to Deborah, you'd like the jewels that I happen to be wearing today, she is at Deb at DeborahKennyJewelry.com, or you can get her at 905-460-5065. Bob, how the heck are you?
I'm great. I love your jewelry.
Yeah, thank you. That's my buddy Deb Kenny.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me go on to our next question here, if you're all right with that. I have an expression, and it is, you pay me now or you pay me later, but you always pay me. And that is, of course, true of anything to do with mental health. But what do you think would have happened had you not taken great control of your mental health when you needed to?
Well, I would have still been stuck in my vortex of trying to stay ahead of the curve, and it was just recently that I realized that everything that I did in my life was shaped by my anxiety, by my depression. And so it's been a blessing that this happened to me. I wish it had happened earlier, because then I would have understood a lot of the decisions that I had made. But let me ask you a question.
Okay.
What made you decide to take on this journey of writing this book and becoming such a wonderful advocate for mental health?
I was kind of I had a couple of people say to me, through the school system especially, but there was one particular guidance counselor when Christina was in school, but it actually had nothing to do with Christina's school. It was the other two that were in this elementary school. I went and I basically said, if my other two children are having difficulty in school, could you please let me know, because my eldest daughter is experiencing some difficulties and has spent a little time in the hospital, blah, blah, blah. So I had this conversation with this guidance counselor, and she immediately is in tears and starts to tell me a story about her sister and what a challenging time that they've had as a result of this young person, this young woman, basically having a baby, and what basically happened to her mental health, which can happen to certain people when their hormones and chemicals and all of the trauma that can happen. It's a wonderful time, but it can be traumatic as well, having a child. And she really asked me. She asked me as I sat there in the guidance counselor room at the elementary school, she said, I'm asking you, would you please write about this? Would you do something with it? And I said, I was thinking at the time, but it was brand new. I said, I'm thinking about a book. And she said, would you? And that was kind of it. That was the catalyst that kind of got it going. That was the little P that was put into the background of my subconscious of, yeah, we need to talk about this. This is, it's important, and it's important for, of course, my family, but it's important for all the families of people that can't talk. And one of the things that she had said was that her family was very much in denial, that they weren't talking about it, that there was a husband running around and a newborn baby running around without anybody present at home because they were experiencing such great difficulty, and the parents wouldn't talk about it like her parents. So it was, it was all about stigma, and I was asked. And it was just one of those things. I said, you know what, you're right, I should need to go forward.
Well, there you go. So
There you go.
here we are.
Yes, and here we
Not
are.
only are we talking about it,
Yeah,
but we are doing lots of things about it.
exactly.
Your book,
Mhm.
this documentary that's coming up,
Yeah,
and it's been a blessing that I met you, and I look forward to continuing our journey on
yeah,
together.
me too, Bob. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Any closing words from you? If you want to say one last thing to everybody, what would it be? Do you think? Keep on trucking.
Krazy, is it a nickname or a diagnosis? We'll never know, but stay tuned and you'll find out what it really is.
Awesome. That's great, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Bobby, thank you so much for joining us
Okay.
today. I really appreciate it. Thanks to Scrapper, our rescue dog. We didn't rescue him, by the way. He rescued us. And we will talk to you again soon, Bob.
Okay, see you later.
Thank you.
Bye.